The fog smothered London Square, cloaking Worthington House in an eerie hush. Inside, the wedding feast's laughter had faded, leaving only the tick of a grandfather clock. Leadland and tin Lady Evelyn Worthington, radiant bride mere hours ago, was gone. Her chamber, draped in roses, held a discarded veil and the shattered champagne flute, its shards glinting like accusations. Hercule Poirot, summoned by a frantic Lord Reginald, surveyed the scene, his eyes sharp. "Mon ami," he murmured, "a bride does not vanish without reason." A blood-stained glove beneath the bed whispered of secrets. What had Evelyn fled, or been taken from? Chapter 1. The Empty Bridal Chamber. The fog clung to London Square like a jealous lover, its tendrils curling around the iron lampposts and muffling the distant clatter of hooves on cobblestone. It was November 1932, and the city exhaled a damp chill that seeped into the bones. Worthington House, a grand Georgian edifice at the square's heart, stood resolute against the mist, its windows glowing with the warmth of a wedding feast now concluded. Inside, crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across polished floors. Where guests had toasted the union of Lady Evelyn Worthington and Lord Reginald Worthington mere hours ago, laughter had filled the air, champagne flutes had clinked, and the bride, radiant in ivory silk, had been the cynosure of all eyes. Yet now, as the clock struck midnight, an unsettling hush had fallen. The bride was gone. Hercule Poirot, the diminutive Belgian detective with a mustache as precise as his mind, stood in the bridal chamber, his polished shoes silent on the Aubusson rug. The room was a study in opulence. A four-poster bed draped in damask, roses spilling from silver vases, and a gilded mirror reflecting the flicker of a single candle. But the bed was untouched, its coverlet pristine, and Evelyn's wedding veil lay discarded on the floor, its lace edges curling like a wilted flower. Poirot's eyes, sharp as a falcon's, faint smear of red, lipstick or blood, stained the rim. Poirot's gaze darted to the window, its heavy drapes undisturbed, the latch secure. No sign of forced entry, yet the air held a whisper of violence. He rose, his movements deliberate, and turned to Reginald. "Tell me, monsieur, of your bride. Lady Evelyn, she was happy, oui? This marriage, it was one of love." His tone was gentle, but his eyes probed like a surgeon's scalpel. Reginald hesitated, his jaw tightening. "Of course, Monsieur Poirot. Evelyn and I, we were devoted. She was nervous, perhaps, as all brides are. Her father's death last year left her with a vast fortune, and the responsibility weighed on her. But she was radiant tonight. Everyone saw it." "Everyone, you say?" Poirot's head tilted. "And who, pray, was everyone? The guests, the household, who was closest to Lady Evelyn?" Reginald listed the key figures. Clara Beaumont, his sharp-tongued sister, who had never warmed to Evelyn. Dr. Henry Voss, the family physician, who had attended Evelyn for her nerves. Margaret Hale, the loyal maid who had served Evelyn since childhood. And Victor Langley, a brooding artist and Evelyn's former suitor, whose presence at the wedding had raised eyebrows. They all adored her, Reginald insisted, though his eyes flickered with doubt. Poirot nodded, filing each name in his mental ledger. "And you, Lord Worthington, where were you when Lady Evelyn vanished?" "I was in the library, settling accounts with the caterer. It was brief, 10 minutes perhaps. When I returned, she was gone." His voice trembled, but Poirot noted the steadiness of his hands, the calculated pause before each answer. The detective moved to the bedside table, where a silver-framed photograph showed Evelyn, her auburn hair cascading over a fur stole, her green eyes bright with secrets. "A woman of beauty and wealth," Poirot murmured. "Such qualities attract both love and envy." He opened the drawer, revealing a leather-bound diary, its pages edged in gold. Flipping through it, he found entries in Evelyn's elegant hand, detailing wedding preparations and fleeting mentions. "They work. We must not leap to conclusions." He crossed to the fireplace, where embers glowed faintly. A scrap of paper, partially burned, caught his eye. He retrieved it with tongs, reading the fragmented words. "Midnight. Danger." The rest was ash. "A message," he said, "or a warning. But for whom?" The room seemed to close in, the fog outside pressing against the windows like a conspirator. Poirot's gaze returned to Reginald. "You will summon the household, oui? I must speak with them all. Clara, Dr. Voss, Margaret, and this Monsieur Langley. Each holds a piece of the puzzle." Reginald nodded, his face a mask of anguish. Or was it calculation? As he left to gather the others, Poirot lingered, his eyes scanning the room once more. The shattered flute, the discarded veil, the blood-stained glove, the burned note. Each was a thread in a tapestry of deceit. Evelyn Worthington had not simply vanished, she had been drawn into a web, and Poirot sensed the spider was close. He stepped to the window, peering into the fog. London Square was silent, save for the distant toll of a church bell. "Where are you, Lady Evelyn?" he whispered. "And what secret did you carry into the night?" The answer, he knew, lay not in the room but in the hearts of those who had last seen her. The game, as his friend Hastings might say, was afoot. Chapter 2. The Worthington Legacy. The oak-paneled drawing room of Worthington House exuded the weight of centuries, its walls lined with portraits of stern Worthington ancestors whose eyes seemed to follow the living with disapproval. The fog outside had thickened, casting a pall over London Square, and the air within was heavy with the scent of beeswax and old leather. Hercule Poirot stood at the room's center, his small, fastidious figure a stark contrast to the grandeur around him. His black patent shoes gleamed, his mustache was a perfect crescent, and his green eyes sparkled with the intensity of a man who saw not just faces, but souls. Before him, the house gaze fixed on the floor. Each, Poirot noted, wore their unease differently, like ill-fitting masks. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot began, his voice soft yet commanding, "a tragedy has befallen this house. Lady Evelyn, a bride on the eve of her new life, has vanished. I, Hercule Poirot, will uncover the truth, but I require your candor. Tell me of the lady, of her life, her heart. Who was she to you?" Reginald spoke first, his voice strained but measured. "Evelyn was everything. She was radiant, kind, the light of my life. Her father, Lord Alastair Worthington, left her a fortune when he died last year. A shipping empire, estates, investments. She bore the responsibility with grace, though it weighed on her. Tonight she was nervous, as brides often are, but joyful. We danced, we toasted, and then she retired to change. That was the last I saw of her." His eyes glistened, but Poirot noted the careful cadence of his words, as if rehearsed. Clara Beaumont's lips curled into a sneer. "Nervous? Reckless, more like. Evelyn was always chasing thrills, riding horses too fast, wandering the square at odd hours. She was no saint, Monsieur Poirot, despite what my brother claims. She had secrets, and secrets breed trouble. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the room like a blade. Poirot's mustache twitched. Clara's resentment was palpable, but was it born of jealousy or knowledge? Dr. Voss cleared his throat, his spectacles glinting in the lamplight. As her physician, I can attest that Evelyn suffered from nerves. I prescribed a mild sedative to calm her before the wedding. She was under strain, her father's death, the estate's demands, the marriage. But she was healthy, Monsieur Poirot. Her disappearance is inexplicable. His hands trembled slightly, and Poirot noted the sweat beading on his brow despite the room's chill. Margaret Hale, the maid, spoke softly, her eyes downcast. Miss Evelyn was kind, sir. Jenkins, I was gone 10 minutes, no more. And you, Mademoiselle Beaumont? Poirot turned to Clara. I was in my room, resting. The festivities were exhausting, and I had no desire to linger. Her tone was curt, but Poirot noted a flicker of unease in her eyes. Dr. Voss adjusted his spectacles. I was in the conservatory checking on a patient, a guest who'd overindulged. Margaret can vouch for me. She brought me a glass of water. Margaret nodded, but her hesitation was subtle, a pause that Poirot filed away. And you, Monsieur Langley? He asked. Victor's jaw tightened. I left the reception early. I couldn't bear to watch her with him. I was in my studio across the square, painting. Alone. Alone, Poirot echoed, his tone neutral but probing. We shall verify these alibis, naturellement. But first, let us consider the clues. He produced the blood-stained glove from his pocket, holding it aloft. This was found beneath the bed. It is small, likely a woman's. The stain, blood perhaps, or paint. Monsieur Langley, as an artist, you use red pigments, oui? Victor bristled. I do, but I wasn't in that room. That glove isn't mine. Nor mine, Clara snapped. Evelyn wore no gloves tonight. It's probably some servant's. Poirot's eyes narrowed. We shall see. He turned to the fireplace where the partially burned note still lay among the embers. And this, midnight, danger. A warning, perhaps, or a rendezvous gone wrong. Did Lady Evelyn have enemies, someone who wished her harm? The room fell silent, the weight of the question pressing on them all. Reginald shook his head, but Clara's lips parted, then closed. Voss stared at the floor, and Margaret's hands twisted her handkerchief. Victor's fists clenched, but he said nothing. Poirot moved to a side table where Evelyn's diary rested. He opened it, reading aloud a passage dated a week prior. I see the way they watch me, as if I am a prize to be claimed, coveted. Had her wealth drawn predators? He returned to the diary, flipping to a later entry. R speaks of love, but his eyes betray ambition. C despises me, and V clings to a past that cannot be. Only M is true, but even she hides something. The initials were clear. Reginald, Clara, Victor, Margaret. But what did Evelyn know that made her fear them? A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Margaret stood at the door, her face pale. Monsieur Poirot, I found something. In Miss Evelyn's jewelry box. She handed him a folded note, its edges worn. Poirot unfolded it, reading the words in Evelyn's hand. Meet me at midnight, or all is lost. His heart quickened. Where was this, mademoiselle? In her room, hidden beneath her pearls. I didn't see it before, I swear. Poirot studied her, noting the tremor in her voice. Merci, Margaret. You have done well. But tell me, why did you not mention this sooner? She looked away. I was afraid, sir. Miss Evelyn. She trusted me. I failed her. Poirot nodded, dismissing her gently. The note was a beacon in the fog, pointing to a clandestine meeting. But with whom? And why the warning of danger? The little gray cells hummed, piecing together the fragments. The glove, the note, the diary, the shattered flute. Evelyn's disappearance was no accident. It was a design, and someone in this house was its architect. Chapter 3. Shadows in the Square. The fog over London Square had thickened into a suffocating veil, swallowing the lamplights until they flickered like dying stars. It was well past midnight on that November night in 1932, and the air carried a damp chill that clung to the skin. Hercule Poirot, undeterred by the gloom, stepped out from Worthington House, his overcoat buttoned tightly, his cane tapping the cobblestones with precise rhythm. The scream that had pierced the silence moments ago lingered in his mind, casting a weak glow. "Begging your pardon, sir," he said, his voice rough as gravel. "But you're out late. Ain't safe in this fog, not with strange goings-on." Poirot's mustache twitched. "Strange goings-on, monsieur? Tell me, what have you seen?" Finch hesitated, his gnarled hands gripping the lantern. "Last night, round midnight, I saw a figure by this here fountain. Cloaked they was, moving quick-like. Thought it was a ghost, what with the fog. Didn't see their face, but they headed toward the river." His eyes darted nervously toward the Thames, its dark waters hidden beyond the square. "A ghost, you say?" Poirot's tone was gentle, but his gaze was piercing. "And this figure? Man or woman?" "Couldn't tell, sir. Too foggy, and they was gone afore I could blink. But I heard a rustle like silk, and a soft voice, woman's maybe, mutterin' something." Poirot nodded, filing the information away. Silk suggested Evelyn's wedding gown, but the voice could belong to another. "Merci, Monsieur Finch. If you recall more, you will inform me, oui?" The groundskeeper nodded and shuffled off, his lantern fading into the mist. Poirot knelt by the fountain, his gloved fingers brushing the damp stone. There, caught in a crack, was a pearl earring, its luster unmistakable. He recalled Margaret Hale's description of Evelyn's wedding attire. Pearl earrings, a gift from her late father. Had she dropped it in haste, or had it been torn from her ear? Poirot slipped the earring into his pocket, his mind racing. The fountain was no random meeting place. It was a stage, and Evelyn had played a part in a drama yet to be unveiled. He returned to Worthington House, where the household awaited, their nerves frayed by the night's events. In the drawing room, Poirot gathered the suspects once more, the pearl earring burning a hole in his pocket. "Mesdames et messieurs," he began, "I have walked this square, and I have found a clue." He held up the earring, its pearl catching the lamplight. "This was found by the fountain, where a cloak—" "Eerie. You're chasing shadows, Monsieur Poirot." Poirot turned to the maid. "Mademoiselle Hale, you said Lady Evelyn took night walks. Did she frequent the fountain?" Margaret nodded, her eyes downcast. "Sometimes, sir. She liked the quiet, said it helped her think." "And you, Dr. Voss?" Poirot's gaze shifted to the physician, whose spectacles glinted nervously. "You were in the conservatory, oui? Yet the fountain is not far. Did you hear anything?" Voss adjusted his collar. "Nothing, Monsieur Poirot. I was attending a guest, as I said. The conservatory windows faced the garden, not the square." Poirot's eyes lingered on Voss, noting the slight tremor in his hands. "And you, Monsieur Langley?" He turned to the artist, whose brooding presence seemed to darken the room. Victor's jaw tightened. I was in my studio as I told you. I didn't go near the fountain. But if Evelyn was there, she was running from something or someone. His gaze flicked to Reginald, heavy with accusation. Poirot paced, his cane clicking softly. The fountain, it seems, is a place of secrets. A cloaked figure, a pearl earring, a scream in the fog. And yet your alibis, they waver like the mist. He paused, his eyes sweeping the group. I returned to Lady Evelyn's chamber and found something curious. Mademoiselle Beaumont, your shoes, those by your door, are caked with mud, fresh from the square. How do you explain this? Clara's face flushed. I stepped out briefly earlier in the evening to clear my head. The wedding was stifling. At midnight, Poirot's tone was mild, but his eyes were relentless. The groundskeeper saw no one else, only this cloaked figure. Perhaps you followed Lady Evelyn, oui? That's preposterous, Clara snapped, but her voice cracked, betraying her composure. Poirot held up a hand. We shall see. The mud, the earring, the note, they form a picture, incomplete but revealing. He turned to the group. I urge you to reflect on your truths. The little gray cells, they do not rest, and they low. You the detective, sir? Heard you're looking for that lady what vanished. I was working the river last night near midnight, heard a scream, sharp-like, from the bank. Thought it was a gull, but now I ain't so sure. Poirot's heart quickened. You saw nothing? No figures, no boat? The man shook his head. Fog was too thick, but the scream came from there. He pointed to a cluster of willows, their branches drooping into the water. Poirot thanked him and approached the willows, his cane probing the soft earth. Beneath the leaves he found a footprint, small, delicate, like a woman's. Evelyn's, or another's. The ribbon, the footprint, the scream. They painted a scene of flight or foul play, but the truth remained elusive. Returning to Worthington House, Poirot's mind buzzed. The earring at the fountain, the mud on Clara's shoes, the ribbon by the river, each clue was a thread, but the tapestry was incomplete. Evelyn had been at the fountain, perhaps meeting someone at midnight. Had she fled to the river, or been taken there? And why the scream? As he re-entered the house, a butler informed him of a new development. A witness, a flower girl from the square, claimed to have seen a woman in white running toward the riverbank. Poirot's eyes gleamed. The little gray cells, they align, he murmured. But the witness's description was vague, and the fog had obscured details. Was it Evelyn, or a decoy? Chapter 4. The Corpse in Question. The morgue on the edge of London was a fortress of cold stone, its air heavy with the tang of antiseptic and the unspoken weight of death. The fog that cloaked London Square had followed Hercule Poirot here, curling around the building like a shroud. It was the early hours of November 1932, and the detective's polished shoes echoed on the tiled floor as he approached the slab where a body lay, covered by a white sheet. The constable who had summoned him stood by, his face grim, while Dr. Henry Voss, the Worthington family physician, hovered nearby, his spectacles fogging in the chill. Impossible. The ring. She wore it last night. It was a family heirloom, unique. His voice trembled, and Poirot noted the sweat beading on his brow, despite the morgue's chill. Unique, you say? Poirot's gaze was piercing. Yet the face tells a different story. This woman is older, her features coarser. The river may distort, but not so much as to erase identity. He leaned closer, examining the corpse's hands. No calluses, but the nails were chipped, unlike the manicured elegance Evelyn was known for. This is a deception, perhaps, or a tragedy misread. The constable, a ruddy-faced man named Inspector Davies, shifted uncomfortably. "We found her near the willow, sir, where that scream was heard. The ring was the only identifying mark. We assumed assumptions," Poirot interrupted, his tone sharp, "are the enemies of truth. We must verify. Inspector, have you a photograph of Lady Evelyn?" Davies produced a small portrait from Worthington House, showing Evelyn's auburn hair and delicate features. Poirot held it beside the corpse, shaking his head. No, this is not she. The ring may be Evelyn's, but this woman is another." He turned to Voss. "You, Doctor, were quick to identify her as Lady Evelyn. Why?" Voss adjusted his spectacles, his fingers unsteady. "The ring, Monsieur Poirot, and the shock of it all. I was mistaken, perhaps, in my haste." His voice faltered, and Poirot's eyes gleamed with suspicion. "A mistake, or a deliberate misdirection?" Poirot stepped back, his mind sifting through the clues. The pearl earring at the fountain, the silk ribbon by the river, the scream in the fog, and now a body that was not Evelyn's. "This woman," he said, "was placed in the Thames to mislead. Someone wished us to believe Lady Evelyn dead. But why? To conceal her true fate, or to protect another?" He examined the body further, noting a faint bruise on the wrist, as if from a tight grip. The dress, though sodden, was of cheaper fabric than Evelyn. Clara Beaumont, Margaret Hale, and Victor Langley gathered, their faces a mix of dread and curiosity. Poirot held up the vial, its glass catching the light. "A body has been found in the Thames, wearing Lady Evelyn's ring. Yet it is not she. Someone wished us to believe her dead. This vial, found in Dr. Voss's bag, suggests a means to subdue. Who among you knows of this?" Reginald's face crumpled, his hands shaking. "Not Evelyn? Then where is she? Monsieur Poirot, I beg you, find her." His grief seemed raw, but Poirot noted the quick glance he shot at Voss, as if seeking reassurance. Clara's lips tightened. "A body that isn't Evelyn's? This is madness. Why would anyone stage such a thing?" Her tone was dismissive, but her eyes darted to Voss, betraying unease. Margaret clutched her apron, tears welling. "Oh, Miss Evelyn, if she's alive, where is she? That ring, it was her mother's. She never took it off." Victor Langley's voice was low, almost a growl. "Someone wanted her gone. That ring, it's a taunt, a lie. Whoever did this is in this room." His gaze locked on Reginald, heavy with accusation. Poirot paced, his cane clicking softly. "The ring is a clue, but not the only one. I searched Dr. Voss's coat and found this." He produced a second pearl earring, matching the one from the fountain. "It was in your pocket, Doctor. How do you explain this?" Voss's face drained of color. I found it in the conservatory after the reception. I meant to return it to Evelyn, but then she vanished. I forgot it in my shock." "Forgot?" Poirot's tone was laced with skepticism. "A clue to a missing woman and you forget? No, Doctor, this will not do." He turned to the group. "The earring at the fountain, the ribbon by the river, the body in the Thames. These are pieces of a puzzle. Some there, only to meet a darker fate. The letter bore no signature, but its ink matched a pen in Voss's bag, a detail Poirot tucked away. As he left the chamber, a maid's whisper reached him. Clara had been seen leaving her room at midnight, despite her claim of sleep. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Clara's muddy shoes, Voss's earring, the staged body, all pointed to a conspiracy, but the heart of it remained elusive. Evelyn was alive, he sensed, but hidden, perhaps by her own choice or another's force. The fog outside seemed to pulse with secrets, and Poirot stood at the window, the letter in his hand. "Lady Evelyn," he murmured, "you are close, yet so far. But the little gray cells, they will find you." Chapter 5. The Spurned Suitor. The fog that enveloped London Square seemed to seep into Worthington House itself, casting a pall over its opulent halls as the clock ticked past the early hours of November 1932. Hercule Poirot stood in the drawing room, the rhythmic tapping from the wall behind the wardrobe still echoing in his mind. It had ceased as quickly as it began, leaving only questions in its wake. Was it Lady Evelyn Worthington, signaling from some hidden recess? Or another trick in this labyrinth of deceit? The detective's little gray cells worked tirelessly, weaving together the threads of the case. The blood-stained glove, the pearl earrings, the silk ribbon, the threatening letter, and the body in the Thames that was not Evelyn's. Each clue pointed to a carefully orchestrated plot, and Poirot was determined to unmask its architect. His attention now turned to Victor Langley, the brooding artist and Evelyn's former suitor, whose presence at the wedding had stirred whispers among the guests. Victor's studio, a cramped attic across the square, was a world apart from Worthington House's grandeur. Poirot navigated the narrow streets, his cane clicking against the cobblestones, the fog parting reluctantly before him. The studio's door creaked open, revealing a chaos of canvases, paint tubes. "You paint her with devotion," he said. "But love can become a cage, no? Where were you at midnight when Lady Evelyn vanished?" Victor set down his brush, his hands stained with paint. "I told you I was here painting. I couldn't stay at that wedding, watching her with him. I left early, came back here, alone." His tone was defiant, but Poirot detected a tremor, a crack in his resolve. "Alone," Poirot echoed, his eyes scanning the room. Yet the groundskeeper saw a cloaked figure at the fountain, and a scream was heard by the river. "You live but a stone's throw from both, Monsieur Langley. Did you see or hear nothing?" Victor's fists clenched. "Nothing." The fog was thick, the square silent. If Evelyn screamed, it wasn't for me. Poirot moved to a cluttered table where a pile of papers caught his eye. Beneath a sketch of Evelyn in her wedding gown was a letter, its edges crumpled. He lifted it, reading aloud. "I cannot marry him, Victor, but I fear his wrath." The words were in Evelyn's hand, dated the day before the wedding. "This, monsieur, suggests Lady Evelyn confided in you. Why did you not mention it?" Victor's face paled. "She gave it to me a week ago, in secret. I kept it to remember her. I didn't think it mattered. She was gone by the time you arrived." "Didn't matter?" Poirot's eyebrow arched. "A woman fears for her life, and you, her confidant, say it does not matter. Non, Monsieur Langley, this is most significant." He slipped the letter into his pocket, his mind racing. The letter confirmed Evelyn's fear, but of whom? Reginald, whose debts loomed large? Or another, lurking in the shadows? Poirot's gaze fell on a wastebasket, where a torn photograph lay among paint-stained rags. He retrieved it, piecing together the fragments. The image showed Evelyn, radiant in a garden, her arm linked with a man whose face was obscured by the tear. The man's build was slight, his attire modest, not Reginald's aristocratic frame. "Who is this, monsieur?" Poirot asked, holding up the fragments. Victor's eyes widened, then narrowed. "I don't know. I found out Margaret Hale, the maid whose loyalty to Evelyn seemed unshakable. He found her in the servants' quarters, polishing silver with trembling hands. "Mademoiselle Hale," he said, his tone gentle. "You saw Lady Evelyn retire to her chamber after the reception. Did you see Monsieur Langley near the house that night?" Margaret's eyes darted to the door as if expecting eavesdroppers.
I saw someone, sir, near the garden gate, just before midnight. It was dark, but he had Victor's build, his way of moving. I thought he'd left hours before, but I swear I saw him."
Poirot's mustache twitched. "And you did not mention this before? Why, mademoiselle?"
"I was afraid, sir," she whispered. "Miss Evelyn cared for him, and I didn't want to cause trouble. But now, with her gone..." Her voice broke, and she dabbed her eyes with her apron.
"Merci, Margaret," Poirot said, dismissing her gently. Her testimony cast a shadow over Victor, but Poirot sensed a red herring. The artist's alibi was thin, yet his love for Evelyn seemed to outweigh his anger. Or was it a performance, as polished as Reginald's grief? Poirot returned to the drawing room where Clara Beaumont sat alone, her fingers tracing the edge of a teacup. "Mademoiselle Beaumont," he said, "you claim to be asleep at midnight, yet your shoes were muddy, and the maid saw you leave your room. Care to revise your story?" Clara's eyes flashed. "I told you, I stepped out earlier, before the fog thickened. I needed air. This house suffocates me, Monsieur Poirot, with its secrets and expectations." "And what secrets do you know of Lady Evelyn?" Poirot pressed, his gaze unrelenting. Clara hesitated, then leaned forward. "Evelyn wasn't the saint everyone thinks. She had plans. Plans to leave, maybe. I overheard her talking to Margaret about her trip, something secret. She was always sneaking off, meeting people she shouldn't." "People like Monsieur Langley?" Poirot asked. "Perhaps," Clara said, her voice cold. "Or others. She was reckless, and reckless women attract." Suspicions deepening. The fortune was a motive, and Reginald's grief, however convincing, could mask greed. As Poirot climbed the stairs to Evelyn's chamber, he pondered the clues. Victor's letter, the torn photograph, Margaret's sighting, Clara's evasions. The tapping in the wall gnawed at him. Was Evelyn hidden within the house, or was it another deception? He paused at the wardrobe, listening. But the sound did not return. Instead, he found a small key, tucked beneath a floorboard, its brass gleaming faintly. Chapter 6. The Maid's Confession. The fog over London Square clung like a persistent memory, its damp tendrils weaving through the streets as dawn crept toward Worthington House. Inside, the air was thick with suspicion, the grand halls echoing with the weight of secrets. Hercule Poirot stood in the bridal chamber, the small brass key with its unfamiliar crest glinting in his gloved hand. The crash from the attic moments ago had set his heart racing, but when he investigated, he found only a fallen candelabrum, its wax splattered like blood on the floorboards. A deliberate distraction, or an accident? His little gray cells churned, piecing together the mosaic of clues. The blood-stained glove, the pearl earrings, the silk ribbon, the threatening letter, the torn photograph, and now this key. Lady Evelyn Worthington's disappearance was no simple flight. It was a tapestry of deceit, and Poirot sensed the threads were tightening. The key's crest, a lion rampant entwined with a rose, was unfamiliar, yet it hinted at a connection beyond the Worthington family. Was it a clue to Evelyn's whereabouts, or another red herring? Poirot's thoughts returned to Margaret Hale, the maid whose loyalty to Evelyn seemed unshakable, yet whose hesitations betrayed hidden knowledge. Her claim of seeing Victor Langley near the garden gate at midnight, coupled with her discovery of the cryptic note, suggested she knew more than she revealed. Poirot resolved fear of someone's charm masking danger. Was it Lord Worthington, Monsieur Langley, or another? Margaret's gaze dropped, her voice barely a whisper. She didn't say who, sir, but she was afraid. Weeks before the wedding, she started locking her door at night. She'd write in her diary late, hiding it under her pillow. Once I heard her crying, saying, "They'll take it all." I thought she meant her fortune. Poirot's mustache twitched. Her fortune, oui. A shipping empire, vast and coveted. Did she speak of altering her will, perhaps to protect it? Margaret hesitated, then nodded. She mentioned seeing a solicitor, sir, about a week ago. Said she wanted to make sure her money went to the right hands if anything happened to her. She didn't tell me more, but she was scared of Lord Reginald. He was always asking about her accounts, pressing her to sign papers. Poirot's eyes gleamed. This is most illuminating. And the key I found, do you recognize its crest? He held it up, the lion and rose catching the dim light. Margaret shook her head. No, sir, but Miss Evelyn had a box with that crest, kept it locked in her desk. She never let me touch it. Poirot dismissed her gently, his mind racing. The key suggested a secret Evelyn guarded, perhaps tied to her fortune or her fears. He returned to her chamber, where the diary still lay on the bedside table. Flipping through its pages, he found a new entry, overlooked in his earlier haste. R wants it all, but I've hidden the truth where he'll never look. The key is my salvation. The initial R pointed to Reginald, but the key's purpose remained elusive. Determined to uncover more, Poirot sought out the desk Margaret mentioned. It was a delicate piece of mahogany, its drawers locked tight. The brass key fit perfectly, and with a soft click, the top drawer opened, revealing a small leather-bound book, not a diary, but a ledger. Its pages detailed transactions, sums moving from Evelyn's accounts to unknown recipients, signed with initials CB and HV. Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. And the mud on your shoes. You were seen near the fountain where Lady Evelyn's earring was found. Were you following her, perhaps? I told you I stepped out earlier, Clara snapped. I didn't see Evelyn. You're chasing ghosts, Monsieur Poirot. Perhaps, he said. But ghosts leave traces, mud, earrings, ledgers. He dismissed her, noting the flicker of fear in her eyes. Clara's evasions were a thread he would tug further. Next, Poirot sought Dr. Voss, finding him in the conservatory, surrounded by wilting ferns. The physician's hands trembled as he packed his medical bag, the vial of chloral hydrate now missing. Doctor, Poirot said, your initials appear in a ledger alongside sums from Lady Evelyn's fortune. And the earring in your pocket, how did it come to be there? Voss's spectacles slipped down his nose. The ledger. I advised Evelyn on investments, that's all. As for the earring, I found it as I said. I meant no harm. No harm? Poirot's voice was sharp. A woman is missing, a body lies in the morgue, and you withhold clues. This will not do, Doctor. Voss stammered, but Poirot's attention shifted to a noise, a faint rustle from the servants' stairs. He followed it, finding Margaret again, her face ashen. Monsieur Poirot, I must confess. I hid something else. Miss Evelyn's diary. It wasn't just in her room. She gave me another, a secret one, before the wedding. She handed him a slim notebook, its pages filled with Evelyn's elegant script. The entries were cryptic, but one stood out. C watches me like a hawk, and H knows too much. I must protect the truth or it will destroy us all. The initials again, Clara and Voss. But a third entry caught Poirot's eye, written in haste. The chapel holds my escape. The chapel? Poirot asked. Where is this place? Margaret swallowed. Blood, he murmured. Or another deception. The scarf was a clue, but its meaning was unclear. Had Evelyn been here, or was this another stage in the killer's play? Chapter 7. The Code Unraveled. The abandoned chapel across London Square stood like a forgotten sentinel, its crumbling stone walls shrouded in the fog that clung to November 1932. Hercule Poirot's lantern cast flickering shadows on the warped pews, the air thick with dust and the faint scent of mildew. The silk scarf in his hand, monogrammed with Evelyn Worthington's initials and stained with a dark rusty smear, felt like a whisper from the missing bride. The low voice that had echoed moments ago, "She's gone and you'll never find her," had vanished into the silence, leaving Poirot alone with his little gray cells, which buzzed with relentless precision. The scarf, the footprint, the hidden compartment beneath the altar, all pointed to this chapel as a nexus in the mystery. But was Evelyn hidden here? Or had this place witnessed her final moments? Poirot knelt by the altar, his gloved fingers tracing the scuff marks in the dust. The footprint was small, delicate, likely a woman's, Evelyn's perhaps, or another's. The scarf stain, he noted, was not fresh. It had dried, suggesting it had been here for hours, perhaps since the night of the wedding. He held it to the lantern's light, his eyes narrowing. Blood or paint, he murmured. We shall see. The compartment had yielded no further clues, but the chapel itself felt alive with secrets, its shadows hiding more than dust. He returned to the diary Margaret had given him, the secret notebook Evelyn had entrusted to her maid. Its cryptic entries had hinted at a sanctuary, the chapel, and now, a faint pencil mark in the margins caught his eye. It was a series of numbers and letters, 12N3W5. A code, perhaps, or coordinates. Poirot's mind raced, recalling the layout of the chapel. 12 steps north, 3 west, 5 down. He paced the nave, counting steps from the altar. 12 steps north led to a cracked flagstone near the west wall. 3 steps west brought him to... Hands were frozen at 12:15, roughly the time of Evelyn's disappearance. Curieux, Poirot murmured. The doctor claimed his watch was stolen, yet here it lies. The glass shards suggested a struggle, but the chamber was empty. No Evelyn, no body. The scarf, the watch, the footprint, they painted a scene of flight or foul play. But the truth remained elusive. Poirot returned to Worthington House, the fog thicker now, muffling the square's sounds. In the drawing room, he confronted Dr. Voss, whose spectacles glinted nervously in the lamplight. "Doctor," Poirot said, holding up the watch.
You said your watch was stolen, yet I find it in a hidden chamber beneath the chapel where Lady Evelyn's scarf was also discovered. Explain this, s'il vous plaît. Voss's face paled, his hands trembling. I don't know how it got there. I lost it days ago before the wedding. Someone must have taken it. Someone? Poirot's tone was sharp. And the scarf? Stained with what may be blood? You prescribed chloral hydrate for Lady Evelyn, oui. A sedative that could render her helpless. Your initials are in her ledger, tied to sums of her fortune. You are entangled, doctor, in a web of your own making. Voss stammered. I advised her on investments, nothing more. The watch, I swear I didn't go to the chapel. Poirot's eyes narrowed. We shall see. He turned to Clara Beaumont, who stood nearby, her lips tight. Mademoiselle Beaumont, your shoes were muddy, and a maid saw you leave your room at midnight. I find you now linked to the chapel where a struggle occurred. Did you follow Lady Evelyn there? Clara's eyes flashed. I told you I stepped out earlier, not at midnight. I went to the chapel once, weeks ago, to meet Evelyn. She liked it there, said it was peaceful. But I wasn't there last night. You're grasping at straws, Monsieur Poirot. Straws? Poirot's mustache twitched. No, mademoiselle, I grasp at truths. The mud on your shoes matches the chapel's earth. I knew nothing of a ledger. Poirot nodded, unconvinced. He produced the diary, pointing to the coded entry 12N-3-5 to level. This led me to the chapel's chamber where I found the scarf and watch. Lady Evelyn planned an escape, but someone intercepted her. Who? Margaret's eyes filled with tears. I swear, sir, I didn't know about the chapel. Miss Evelyn never told me about a code. Victor's voice was low. She was running from him. He pointed at Reginald. That ledger proves it. He was bleeding her dry. Reginald lunged forward, but Poirot raised a hand. Enough. The truth will not be found in accusations, but in evidence. He dismissed the group, his mind turning to the scarf's stain. He sent it to a chemist for analysis, suspecting poison or blood. The watch placed Voss at the scene, but Clara's muddy shoes and Margaret's secrets suggested a wider conspiracy. Poirot returned to the chapel, determined to search again. The fog had lifted slightly, revealing the square's outlines. Inside, he examined the altar's compartment, finding a faint scratch mark, a letter E carved hastily. Evelyn's mark. He traced it, his thoughts racing. The code had led him here, but the chamber was a dead end. Or was it? He tapped the chamber's walls, listening for hollows. A faint echo sounded behind a stone panel. With effort, he pried it open, revealing a narrow passage, barely wide enough for a person. It led toward the river, its walls damp and slick. Poirot followed, his lantern casting eerie shadows. The passage ended at a rusted grate opening to the Thames bank, near where the silk ribbon was found. Had Evelyn escaped this way, or been dragged? As he emerged, a dockworker approached. You the detective? Found something odd by the river. A hairpin, silver, fancy-like. Thought it might belong to that lady. Poirot took the hairpin, recognizing its design from Evelyn's jewelry box. Merci, he said, his mind racing. The passage connected the chapel to the river, a route for flight or foul play. The scarf, silk ribbon, the threatening letter, the torn photograph, the brass key, and now the poisoned scarf. Evelyn's disappearance was a carefully staged drama,
and Poirot was determined to unmask its director. Dr. Voss sat across from him, his spectacles glinting nervously in the conservatory's dim light. His hands, usually steady with a scalpel, twitched as he clutched his medical bag, its leather worn but still bulging with secrets. Poirot's eyes were relentless, his mustache a perfect crescent masking the intensity of his scrutiny. "Doctor," he began, his voice soft but edged with steel. "The scarf found in the chapel bears arsenic, a poison you possess. Your watch, inscribed to you, was found in the same chamber, and your initials appear in a ledger siphoning Lady Evelyn's fortune. Your composure, it crumbles, Tell me the truth, or the little gray cells will uncover it for you." Voss's face drained of color, his spectacles slipping down his nose. "Monsieur Poirot, I swear, I prescribed chloral hydrate for Evelyn's nerves, nothing more. The arsenic, I keep it for medical purposes, in minute doses. I didn't poison her." His voice cracked and he fumbled with his bag, as if to prove its innocence. Poirot's eyebrow arched. "Medical purposes. Enough to kill, doctor, if misused. And your watch, how did it find its way to the chapel, where a struggle occurred? You claim it was stolen, yet it marks the hour of Lady Evelyn's disappearance. This is no coincidence." Voss stammered. I lost it days before the wedding. Someone must have placed it there to implicate me. I cared for Evelyn. She was my patient, my friend." "Friend," Poirot's tone was sharp. "Or a means to an end. The ledger shows sums transferred to H.V. You, doctor. Were you profiting from her wealth, perhaps caked with chapel mud? Betray your presence at midnight. Did you conspire with Dr. Voss, perhaps to silence Lady Evelyn?" Clara's lips tightened. "You're relentless, Monsieur Poirot. I told you I stepped out earlier, not at midnight. The ledger? Evelyn lent me money. Sisterly generosity, nothing sinister. As for the chapel, I haven't been there since weeks ago, when Evelyn dragged me to see her sanctuary." "Sanctuary," Poirot echoed, his eyes narrowing. Yet a sanctuary became a stage for violence. The scarf, the arsenic. Someone wished her harm. Your resentment of Lady Evelyn, it is no secret. Was it jealousy or something deeper? Clara stood, her voice icy. Jealousy? Of her? She was a reckless girl playing at nobility. I protected Reginald from her whims, nothing more. She turned away, but Poirot noted the tremor in her hands, a crack in her armor. Next, Poirot sought Margaret Hale, whose loyalty to Evelyn seemed genuine, but shadowed by omissions. He found her in the kitchen, peeling potatoes with mechanical precision. "Mademoiselle Hale," he said, "you hid Lady Evelyn's secret diary, and now I find a ledger linking her fortune to Voss and Clara. Did you know of their dealings?" Margaret's knife paused, her eyes welling with tears. "I knew she was worried about her money, sir. She said Reginald wanted control, and Clara was always whispering about the estate. But I didn't know about any ledger. Miss Evelyn trusted me, but she kept some things even from me." "And the chapel?" Poirot pressed. "You said it was her sanctuary. Did she meet someone there? Perhaps the man in the torn photograph? Margaret hesitated, then nodded. She mentioned an old friend, sir. Someone from before Lord Worthington. She wouldn't say who, but she went to the chapel. To think, to plan. I thought she was meeting Victor, but now I'm not sure. Poirot's mind raced. The photograph's unknown man was a lingering enigma, a figure tied to Evelyn's past. Was unconvinced and left to pursue a new lead. A riverboat captain, interviewed by Inspector Davies, had seen Voss near the Thames on the wedding night, carrying a heavy bag. Poirot confronted Voss again, this time in his office, a small room cluttered with medical texts. "Doctor," he said, "a witness places you at the riverbank at midnight. Your watch, your poison, your presence, all point to you. What were you doing there?" Voss collapsed into a chair, his face ashen. I went to meet Evelyn. She asked me to the river, said she needed to discuss her health. But she never came. I waited, then left. I swear, I didn't harm her. Poirot's eyes gleamed. And the bag? What did it hold? Medical supplies, Voss said weakly. Nothing more. Poirot searched the office, his fingers brushing a notebook tucked beneath a pile of papers. A torn page caught his eye, its handwriting matching the threatening letter. "Leave him, or you will not see another dawn." "This," Poirot said, "suggests you knew more than you admit. A second victim, perhaps, to cover the first?" Voss shook his head near tears. "No, no. I wrote no such letter." As Poirot pocketed the page, a faint scent caught his attention. Lavender, like Margaret's sachet. He opened a drawer, finding a handkerchief monogrammed with E.W., Evelyn's. This, doctor, was not mentioned. How did it come to be here? Voss froze. I found it in the conservatory. I kept it, meaning to return it. Poirot's mind raced. The handkerchief, the torn page, the riverbank sighting, all tightened the noose around Voss. Yet Clara's muddy shoes and Reginald's debts suggested a wider net. The chapel's passage, the arsenic, the decoy body. Someone had planned meticulously, but Evelyn's fate remained unclear. Chapter 9. The Hidden Room. The fog-opened desk where a faint seam suggested a hidden door. The brass key, found beneath Evelyn's floorboard, burned in his pocket. He inserted it into a nearly invisible lock, and with a soft click, the panel swung open, revealing a narrow chamber no larger than a closet. Dust motes danced in the lantern's light, illuminating a traveling cloak. Evelyn's, its ivory wool unmistakable, and a train ticket to Paris, dated the night of the wedding. Poirot's heart quickened. An escape, he murmured, or a deception. The chamber was cramped, its walls bare save for a small shelf holding a locked box, its crest matching the key. Poirot opened it, finding a bundle of letters tied with ribbon. The topmost in Evelyn's hand read, "I must leave, or they will take everything. The chapel was my hope, but now I fear even that is compromised." The letters detailed her fears of Reginald's greed, Clara's jealousy, and Voss's duplicity. But one name stood out. The stranger from my past. He knows the truth. The torn photograph's unknown man, perhaps? Poirot tucked the letters into his coat, his mind racing. Had Evelyn planned to flee to Paris only to be intercepted? He returned to the drawing room where the household, Reginald, Clara, Voss, Margaret, and Victor, awaited, their faces a mosaic of dread and defiance. Poirot held up the cloak and ticket. "Mesdames et messieurs," he said, his voice commanding, "I have found Lady Evelyn's cloak and a train ticket to Paris, hidden in a secret chamber. She planned to flee, but someone stopped her. The ledger, the arsenic, the decoy body, all suggest a plot to control her fortune. Who among you knew of this chamber?" Reginald's face paled, his hands clenching. "A secret chamber? I knew nothing of it, Monsieur Poirot. Evelyn never spoke of leaving. I swear, I loved her." His voice trembled, but Poirot noted the calculated pause before each word, as if rehearsed. Clara's eyes narrowed. A paced, his cane clicking softly. Safe, yet she feared for her life. The letters speak of a stranger, someone from her past. The torn photograph, perhaps he is the key. He produced the photograph, its fragments pieced together. "Monsieur Langley, you said this was an old friend. Do you know his name?" Victor hesitated, his eyes dark. "She called him Thomas, but I never met him. She said he was from her father's shipping days, someone who helped her." Poirot's mind raced. Thomas, a new name, a new thread. He turned to the group. The cloak, the ticket, the letters, all suggest Lady Evelyn planned to escape. But the arsenic, the decoy body, the chapel's passage, they point to betrayal. One of you, or several, wove this web. He held up the key. "This opened the chamber, but it may unlock more. Tell me, who has access to the library?" Reginald cleared his throat. "Only the family, and Margaret for cleaning. It's private. No guests, no servants beyond her." Poirot's eyes gleamed. Then the chamber was no accident. Someone knew its secret. He dismissed the group, his thoughts turning to the attic's sob. Was Evelyn hidden within the house, or was it another ruse? He climbed the narrow stairs to the attic, its air stale and heavy with dust. The candelabrum's wax still marked the floor. But a new clue caught his eye. A hairpin, identical to the one found by the river tucked beneath a crate. He knelt, examining it. "Evelyn's," he murmured. "Or another's." The attic was a maze of trunks and shadows, but a faint draft led him to a loose board in the wall. He pried it open, revealing a narrow crawl space, empty but for a scrap of lace, part of Evelyn's veil. Poirot's heart quickened. "She was here," he said, "or someone wishes us to think so." He returned to the library where Inspector Davies awaited with news. "Monsieur Poirot, we've identified the body from the Thames, a seamstress, Mary Ellis, reported missing 2 days ago. No connection to the Worthingtons, but she worked with them." Poirot dismissed her, his mind racing. The seamstress, the ring, the attic. Someone was orchestrating a charade, planting clues to confuse. He gathered the suspects again, laying out the evidence. The cloak, the ticket, the letters, the hairpin, the decoy body. "The truth," he said, "is close. Lady Evelyn planned to flee, but someone stopped her. The arsenic, the ledger, the chamber, all point to greed and betrayal. Speak now, or I will uncover your secrets." Clara's lips tightened, Voss's hands trembled. Reginald's face crumpled, Victor's eyes burned, and Margaret wept silently. The tension was palpable, each suspect a thread in the tapestry. Poirot's voice was steady. "One of you knows where she is. The attic. It calls to me, and I will answer." Chapter 10. The Final Revelation. The fog that had cloaked London Square for days seemed to lift slightly as dawn broke on November 1932, casting a pale light through the windows of Worthington House. Hercule Poirot stood in the grand drawing room, his small, fastidious figure a beacon of clarity amid the chaos of suspicion. The thud and creaking door from the attic heard moments ago had sent a ripple of tension through the household, suggesting that Lady Evelyn Worthington, the vanished bride, might still be within these walls. Poirot's little gray cells thrummed with purpose, weaving together the intricate tapestry of clues. The blood-stained glove, the pearl earrings, the silk ribbon, the threatening letter, the torn photograph, the brass key, the arsenic-laced scarf, the incriminating ledger, the traveling cloak, the train ticket, and the hairpin. Each thread pointed to a meticulously planned deception. And now the final act was at hand. Poirot had summoned the household, Lord Reginald Worthington, Clara Beaumont, Dr. Henry Voss, Margaret Hale, and Victor Langley, to the drawing room, their faces a gallery of fear, defiance, and guilt. They emerged, pale and disheveled, her auburn hair tangled, her eyes wide with fear, but alive. The room erupted in exclamations, Reginald's cry of relief, Clara's sharp intake of breath, Voss's stunned silence, Margaret's sob, and Victor's fervent whisper, "Evelyn." Poirot raised a hand for silence, his gaze fixed on the trembling woman. "Mon Dieu," he said, "you are safe, Madame Worthington. But tell us, why did you hide, and from whom?" Evelyn's voice was weak, but steady. "I hid to save my life, Monsieur Poirot. They wanted my fortune. Reginald, Clara, and Dr. Voss. I discovered their plan to kill me and stage my death. The body in the Thames. It was meant to be me. But I escaped." Poirot nodded, his eyes sweeping the group. "Let us return to the drawing room, where all shall be revealed." He escorted Evelyn downstairs, her presence a living rebuke to the conspirators. As they settled, Poirot began his denouement, his voice a calm tide washing away deception. "The disappearance of Lady Evelyn," he said, "was a plot woven with greed and betrayal. The clues, each a thread in the tapestry, tell the story. The blood-stained glove, found beneath the bed, was not blood but paint, planted to suggest a struggle. The pearl earrings, one at the fountain, one in Dr. Voss's pocket, pointed to a staged scene. The silk ribbon and hairpin by the river, the arsenic-laced scarf in the chapel, all were meant to mislead, to make us believe Lady Evelyn was dead." He turned to Evelyn. "You planned to flee to Paris, oui? The cloak, the ticket, the letters in the hidden chamber, they speak of your escape. But you were betrayed." Evelyn nodded, clutching Margaret's hand. "I found the ledger, showing Reginald and Clara siphoning my fortune. Dr. Voss was helping them, using his access to my health to weaken me with sedatives. I confided in Margaret, hid a second diary, and planned to meet a friend, Thomas. The murder of Mary Ellis, a seamstress chosen for her resemblance to Evelyn, is a crime. Her body, wearing Evelyn's ring, was meant to close the case. You, Clara, resented Evelyn's wealth, her place in your brother's life. You plotted with Voss, whose financial ruin tied him to Reginald's debts. He turned to Voss. Doctor, your watch, your poison, your presence at the river, all condemn you. You drugged Mary Ellis, killed her, and placed her in the Thames to deceive us. Voss collapsed, sobbing. It wasn't my idea. Clara and Reginald, they forced me. I needed money, yes, but I didn't want to kill. Reginald lunged forward. Lies. I loved Evelyn. I knew nothing of this. Poirot's gaze was relentless. Lord Worthington, your debts drove this plot. The ledger shows your complicity, and Evelyn's diary reveals your ambition. You married her for her fortune, and when she planned to flee, you allowed Clara and Voss to act. Evelyn's voice was firm. It's true, Monsieur Poirot. Reginald pressured me to sign over my estate. When I refused, he grew desperate. I overheard him with Clara, planning to remove me. Poirot nodded. The attic was your refuge, madame. But the sob, the hairpin, the veil, they were clues you were alive. Victor Langley, your former suitor, was innocent, though his passion made him a suspect. His letter and torn photograph were red herrings, planted by Clara to divert suspicion. Victor's eyes burned. I told you, Poirot, I loved her. I tried to warn her. And you, Mademoiselle Hale, Poirot said, turning to Margaret. You hid the diary out of loyalty, but your silence nearly cost Evelyn her life. Your testimony, though late, helped unravel the truth. Margaret wept, clutching Evelyn's hand. I'm sorry, Miss Evelyn. I only wanted to protect you. Poirot faced the conspirators.